forged aluminum part, I believe, or a sand cast aluminum part. It was one of those two. They actually started breaking their test fixture. So instead of being able to break the lower control arm, they actually broke the fixture itself, which is quite impressive. And you see that they had some moderate weight reduction as well as cost reductions in this steering knuckle. If we look at this thrust rod, this is just a traditional high-pressure die casting part in the BMW X5. BMW and Audi have been very aggressive at employing die casting in their cars to make them lighter. And so here you see about a 50% weight reduction, and they consolidated a number of parts, and they replaced the steel part, and so this has been a great application for them. It also brings up this idea, anytime you're going to design a die casting, you should ask, what am I attaching this casting to, and can I die cast that as well? And so you're going to see a lot of this part consolidation, where we realize we don't need to bolt a bunch of other things to this die casting, because we can die cast those components as well. And so here's a great example of that. Here's an engine base bracket. This is 43% lighter than a stamped steel engine base bracket in the Honda Accord, I believe. And this meets all the requirements, but it's one part instead of 16 separate parts. And now they actually have taken 4 different model levels and condensed them down into one common bracket, which allows them to have significant cost reductions. Just Honda would not allow us to share what those cost reductions are. And this is in a very high production rate environment of about 1 million a year. Acura has gone really crazy for these engine cradles. Pretty much all the auto companies are using these. And again, you see 46% reduction in weld length, 40% lighter, 16 parts instead of 48. You see tremendous amounts of savings when we can take a component, reduce the other components around it, and make it lighter and easier to use in the process. This is probably the most famous example of an automotive die casting right now in the industry. This is a shock tower used in the BMW X5, and this is made at a 40% weight savings. It's made out of 5 different parts of steel that were made before, and now it's just one die casting. This casting is very impressive because it's actually, first of all, made here in the United States, up in Kenosha, Wisconsin, but second of all, because it is attached into the frame with self-piercing rivets. So they regularly get elongations over 15% in this particular casting. And so really that's what I wanted to show you guys today. Hopefully this is giving you some good ideas, giving you some ideas of the concerns I got to pay attention to when I start thinking about designing a die casting. Like I said, next week on Monday, we're going to talk about defects in particular, and we're going to try to understand what design features we're putting into the casting that cause defects and how much we can actually control those defects. Clearly, this is going to be, again, another whirlwind tour of that whole topic, but hopefully it'll get you really up to speed on that. And then again, on Thursday after Thanksgiving, we will be doing another webinar where we talk about, what real design features should I be putting in on these castings. I do again want to thank the sponsors who actually sponsored this presentation, Prestige Casting out in Colorado, Deco Die Casting, which is, I believe, in Iowa, and Twin City Die Castings up in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. These are all fantastic members of NADCA, and if you had any follow-up questions or you really wanted to go ahead and start talking about designing die castings, I'd highly recommend contacting these guys. They're fantastic die casters. If you do have follow-up questions and you're not quite at the point that you want to talk to a die caster, feel free to email NADCA at help@diecastingdesign.org, and we will get back to you as soon as possible with answers to any questions that you have. But before we do that, I would like to answer any questions that we have that have currently been coming in. And so feel free to ask any questions. We have about 10 minutes for these questions, and I'll be happy to stick around later if we have a lot more coming in. But Charles asks a question, does the plunger velocity profile vary a lot between hot and cold chamber die casting process? And Charles, it really doesn't. If I look at the hot chamber process, I don't have to worry as much about that rolling wave in that injection mechanism because I don't have a wave to form. But what I do have to worry about is I still have to fill the metal up